Alessia's bare foot touched something wet. She froze in the doorway of her London flat, keys still dangling from her fingers. The lights were off, but streetlight bled through the curtains, painting silver lines across the Persian rug her grandmother had left her. And on that rug, a shape. A man. Motionless. A crimson rose resting on his chest like a funeral tribute. Her breath jammed in her throat. She didn't scream. She'd learned young that screams didn't bring help, they only brought more trouble. Instead, she stepped closer, her trembling hand reaching for the lamp switch. The yellow glow flooded the room and confirmed what her gut already knew. The man on her floor was dead. Blood, dark and thick, seeped from a wound in his chest into the cream wool of her rug. And the rose, thorny, impossibly fresh, looked like it had been placed there by a careful hand. Damiano Cattaneo. The name surfaced from the depths of memory, dragged up by her mother's deathbed confession 3 years ago. "You're already married to the man who killed your father." She dismissed it as morphine-induced madness. Now a corpse and a rose said otherwise. The front door swung open without a knock. Alessia spun, her pulse spiking. The man who entered was darkness sculpted into human form, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a bespoke black suit that probably cost more than her flat. His hair was slicked back, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart. Pale gray, like a frozen lake just before it cracks beneath your feet. No warmth. No mercy. Just the patient, unblinking calm of a predator who'd already won. In one hand he carried a leather folio. In the other, a single red rose, identical to the one on the corpse. He set the rose on her entryway table with the delicacy of a man delivering a gift. Alessia De Luca. His voice was smoke and Italian silk. "You've grown into something beautiful. That will make this easier." She didn't move. "Who are you?" "You know who I am." He opened the folio, turning it so she could see the yellowed parchment inside. "You've known since you were 7 years old." Her eyes dropped to the paper. Marriage contract. The ornate script was faded, but the signature at the bottom was unmistakable, a looping, childish scrawl she recognized from old birthday cards. Her own name, written in her own 7-year-old hand. "I didn't sign this," she whispered. "You did. Your father sealed the pact in blood." He closed the folio with a snap. "You are my wife. You have been for 20 years. I am here to collect what is mine." The word collect hit her like a slap. She lifted her chin, her terror hardening into something sharper. "I'm not a package. I'm not a debt. And I'm certainly not yours." Something flickered in those frozen eyes. Interest. Perhaps amusement. "You are all three. The sooner you accept that, the less this will hurt." He stepped closer. She stepped back, her heel hitting the edge of the rug, and she felt the wetness soak through her shoe. Blood. The dead man's blood. She still didn't scream. She just lifted her gaze and met the monster's stare. "You have 1 hour to pack," he said. "At midnight, you belong to me. Cry, scream, try to run, I'll enjoy the chase. But you will never, ever escape a contract signed in blood." Alessia's heart felt like a trapped bird beating against her ribs. But she'd spent a decade building walls around her terror. She wasn't about to let one beautiful devil knock them down tonight. "Then you'd better be ready for war," she said. "Because I will burn your empire to the ground before I let you own me." The corner of his mouth didn't move, but something shifted in that frosty gaze. Respect. Or hunger. Or the quiet thrill of a predator who just discovered his prey had claws. "War," he murmured, "is the only language I know." But tonight I will teach you a new one, compliance. He turned and walked out, expecting her to follow. Alessia stood rooted for 3 heartbeats, then grabbed her phone and a jacket. She was already calculating how to destroy him. That was her first mistake. You don't destroy a man like Damiano Cattaneo. You survive him. And if you are very, very lucky, you learn his secrets before he learns yours. She didn't know then that the real monster wasn't the one holding the contract. It was the one who'd made her father sign it. And that monster was still breathing, still watching, and ready to make her his next payment. The Tuscan fortress rose from the hills like a stone beast slumbering under moonlight. Alessia stepped out of the Rolls-Royce into air scented with cypress and ancient danger. Damiano walked ahead, his silhouette sharp against the illuminated archway. Servants appeared silently, taking her bag, avoiding her eyes. Inside, the villa was a contradiction: marble floors and vaulted ceilings, Renaissance frescoes staring down at modern security panels. It was a palace and a prison. Damiano led her to a wing at the end of a long corridor. He opened a door and gestured inside. "Your room." She stepped in and stopped breathing. The room was frozen in childhood. A canopy bed with pink silk. A bookshelf filled with fairy tales in Italian. A music box with a ballerina poised mid-spin. And on the nightstand, a photograph of a little girl with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile. Her. "Why is this here?" Her voice came out strange, half wonder, half horror. Damiano leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "I prepared it when the contract was signed. You were supposed to grow up here. Circumstances changed." "You mean my father ran? Your father made choices." His tone was ice. "Choices that required me to wait 20 years. I am not a patient man, Alessia. But I learned patience for this." She picked up the photograph. The frame was cold in her hands. "If you think a childhood bedroom makes up for a corpse on my rug, I don't care about making up." He pushed off the doorframe. "I care about the contract. Tomorrow night we attend a gala in Venice. You will smile, you will hold my arm, and you will convince every dangerous man in that room that you adore me. Is that understood? And if I refuse?" He stepped into her space, close enough that she could smell winter mint and leather. "You will not refuse. Because if Valentino even suspects this marriage is a lie, he will peel you apart piece by piece to get to me. And I will lose a very valuable asset. I do not lose assets. Valentino." The name landed like a stone in her stomach. She'd heard that name before, her mother's whispered fear, the monster who'd haunted the edges of her family's destruction. "Who is Valentino?" Damiano's jaw tightened. "The man who killed your father. The man who will kill you if he learns the truth. Now sleep. Tomorrow, you become my loving wife or a corpse. The choice is yours." He left. The door clicked shut, and Alessia stood alone in a room built for a child who no longer existed, holding a photograph of a girl who died the moment her father signed in blood. She didn't sleep. She searched. Every drawer, every shelf, every loose floorboard. And in a hidden compartment at the back of the shelf, she found a letter. Her mother's handwriting. The ink was faded, the paper soft with age. She read it by moonlight, her hands trembling. "Alessia, amore mio. If you are reading this, I am gone and you are in his house. Listen to me carefully. Damiano Cattaneo did not kill your father. He killed the man who was wearing your father's face. A traitor. Your real father died in a car accident 6 months earlier, hidden away to protect you from Valentino. Damiano executed the impostor. He saved us. But Valentino still hunts. He wants what the contract promises, the Cattaneo Empire and De Luca blood joined. If you bear Damiano's heir, Valentino will destroy you both. Run if you can. Fight if you cannot run. And never, ever trust a Cattaneo with your heart. Alessia pressed the letter to her chest. The world tilted and rearranged itself. The monster who'd claimed her tonight wasn't her enemy. He was the shield. And the marriage contract wasn't a prison sentence. It was a target painted on her back. The door opened. Damiano stood in the threshold, his eyes dropping to the letter in her hands. Something crossed his face, surprise, then resignation. "Now you know," he said quietly. "You let me believe you killed my father. I let you believe what kept you safe. Hate gave you distance. Distance kept you alive." She stood, the letter crumpling in her fist. "And the contract? The real reason you married a 7-year-old girl?" He stepped forward, and for the first time she saw something human flicker behind the ice. Pain. Old and buried, but still festering. "The contract is a shield. If I die without an heir, you inherit everything, my fortune, my empire, my seat at the table. Valentino cannot touch you without declaring war on every family I control. I did not marry you for a wife." He paused, his voice cracking almost imperceptibly. "I married you to make you a queen who needs no king." Alessia stared at him. The cold billionaire, the mafia monster, the man who'd placed a rose on a corpse and claimed her like property. He'd been protecting her. All along. "Why?" she breathed. "Why would you do that for me?" "Because I owe your father a debt. And because I do not break contracts." He turned to leave. "Get some rest. Tomorrow the real war begins." When the door closed, Alessia sank onto the bed and wept, not for fear, but for the impossible weight of a truth she'd never asked to carry. She was a queen in a fortress of ice, married to a man she'd been taught to hate, and the only thing standing between her and death was the cold, unyielding wall of Damiano Cattaneo's will. The Venice Gala was held in a palazzo that had witnessed 5 centuries of intrigue. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto masked faces, and the air hummed with champagne and whispered threats. Alessia walked on Damiano's arm, her gown a column of blood-red silk, her mask a lattice of black lace. Every nerve in her body screamed danger, but she kept her smile fixed like a blade. "Eyes on me," Damiano murmured, his lips brushing her temple. "You're doing beautifully. I feel like a lamb at a wolf convention. You are a wolf. You just don't know it yet." He guided her through the crowd, exchanging nods with men whose smiles never reached their eyes. Then the crowd parted, and Alessia felt the temperature drop. A man approached, older, silver-haired, with a face like a Renaissance pope and eyes like a snake's. "Valentino." "Damiano." The old man's voice was oily sweetness. "You've been hiding your bride. She's exquisite. She's also off-limits." Damiano's arm tightened around her waist. "Touch what's mine, Valentino, and I'll gift you a rose of your own." Valentino laughed, but his gaze crawled over Alessia's skin. "The contract, I hear, is ironclad. Shame. If you ever tire of this ice sculpture, Bella, come visit me. I'd much enjoy discussing your father." Before Alessia could reply, Damiano stepped between them. The air crackled. "We're leaving." He pulled her away, his grip bruising. Outside, in the cold canal breeze, he released her and slammed his fist against a stone pillar. "I should have killed him years ago. Why didn't you?" Alessia demanded, her heart racing. "He murdered my father. He's hunting me. Why let him live?" "Because he has something I need." Evidence. Evidence that can destroy my family's legacy if exposed. He's blackmailing me from the grave and he doesn't even know I'm dying to kill him. Damiano's voice was raw, the ice cracking. The contract is the only thing keeping him from taking you as collateral. If he discovers that our marriage is a performance, he'll put a bullet in your head and send me the video. Alessia stepped forward and grabbed his face with both hands. The gesture shocked them both. Then don't let him discover it. Teach me. Train me. Make me your weapon. I'm done being a lamb. Something broke in his gaze. The glacier fractured, and beneath it was fire. You want to learn what I am? I want to survive. And I want him dead. Damiano stared at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her. Not gently. Not tentatively. It was a claiming, a branding, a desperate roar of possession. When he pulled back, his breath was ragged. Training starts tomorrow. No mercy. I don't want mercy, she said. I want revenge. The safe house was a converted barn deep in the Dolomites. During a mission to intercept a Valentino courier, Damiano's team got ambushed. He took a bullet to the shoulder, and Alessia dragged him through the snow to shelter while his men fought off the attackers. Now they were trapped by a blizzard, the fire crackling weakly, and there was only one bed. This is absurd, she muttered, staring at the narrow cot. Survival is absurd. Damiano hissed as she peeled off his bloody shirt. You can sleep on the floor if you prefer. You're the one bleeding. I've bled before. She cleaned the wound with vodka from a flask, her hand surprisingly steady. He watched her, those gray eyes tracking every movement. You have a doctor's touch. My mother was a nurse. Before Valentino's people drove her into hiding. She pressed a bandage into place. Why did you come for me tonight? You could have let them take me. You are my wife. A contract you signed with a dead man. His hand caught her wrist. I came because I could not breathe at the thought of you in his hands. Is that what you want to hear? That the Ice King has a heart after all? It is a cruel, battered thing, but it beats, and tonight it beats for you. Alessia's eyes stung. You're bleeding through the bandage. I don't care. She kissed him then. Soft at first, then urgent, pouring every fear and confusion and desperate hope into the press of her lips. He responded like a man starved, his injured arm pulling her closer despite the pain. They tumbled onto the cot, limbs tangled, mouth seeking. The world outside was white and howling. Inside, two people born into violence found something that felt terrifyingly like peace. Afterward, in the dark, she traced the scars on his chest. Tell me about the boy you were. Before the ice. He was silent so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, his name was Luca. He loved music. He played the piano. His mother died when he was 12, and his father turned him into a soldier. One day, he stopped playing the piano and started killing men who threatened the family. The boy died. Only the soldier remained. Luca, she whispered. The name felt sacred. He's still in there. I've seen him. You're the only one who ever looked. She pressed her lips to his heartbeat. I see you. All of you. And I'm not running. Weeks passed. Damiano kept his promise. Every morning, he trained her in the cellar gym, how to disarm a man twice her size, how to shoot a moving target, how to read a room for threats. The sessions were brutal, but they were also intimate. Instructor and student. Husband and wife. Two people learning each other's rhythms until they moved like a single weapon. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling sparring session that left her pinned beneath him on the mat, Alessia laughed. Damiano blinked. You laughed, he said. You grunted like a bear. It was adorable. I am not adorable. I am a mafia lord. You're a mafia lord who hides a stuffed bear from his childhood in the back of his closet. His eyes widened. You found that? I'm a detective now. You trained me too well. He rolled off her, lying on his back and staring at the ceiling. You've ruined my carefully curated reputation. Good. She propped herself on her elbow, looking down at him. Luca needs more airtime. He's much more fun. He pulled her down into a kiss. You are dangerous, Alessia Cattaneo. It was the first time he'd called her that name. She felt the weight of it settle into her bones like destiny. The opera house was Damiano's stage for the final act of their performance. Valentino needed to believe the marriage was real, needed to see passion so raw it couldn't be faked, so he'd overplay his hand. They sat in a private box, Damiano's hand resting possessively on her knee. Below, the orchestra swelled into Puccini. Alessia felt the eyes of the underworld on her skin. He's watching, Damiano murmured. Then give him a show. She turned and kissed him, deeply, publicly, with every ounce of real desire she'd been stockpiling for weeks. The kiss was not an act. It was a declaration. When she pulled back, Damiano's eyes were dark with something more than strategy. You're getting too good at this, he said hoarsely. Maybe I'm not acting anymore. His hand found hers and gripped tight. Neither am I. That night, back at the fortress, they didn't go to separate rooms. Alessia led him to hers, the childhood room that had become her sanctuary, and they undressed each other slowly, deliberately, with the reverence of two warriors laying down weapons. There was no contract between them in that moment. No blood pact. Just a man and a woman choosing each other in the eye of the storm. I love you, she said against his chest. I didn't plan to. I didn't want to. But I do. His arms tightened around her like she was the only anchor in a hurricane. I have loved you since I saw your photograph at 7 years old and promised your father I'd keep you alive. I loved you in theory. Now I love you in truth, and it terrifies me more than any enemy. Then we terrify each other together. He kissed her forehead. Together. The betrayal came on a Tuesday. Damiano's consigliere, Marco, had been with the family for 3 decades. He'd bounced Alessia on his knee when she was a child visiting with her father. He knew every secret, every safe house, every weakness. And he'd been selling them to Valentino for years. Alessia discovered it by accident. She was reviewing financial records, Damiano had been teaching her the business, and found a series of offshore payments that didn't align with any legitimate operation. The trail led to Marco. When she brought the evidence to Damiano, the color drained from his face. He was at my father's deathbed, Damiano said, his voice hollow. He taught me how to hold a gun. I'm sorry, Alessia whispered. Don't be sorry. Be ready. They confronted Marco in the fortress library. The old man didn't deny it. He stood by the fireplace, his face a mask of weary resignation, and admitted everything. Valentino has my daughter. He's had her for 15 years. I do what I must to keep her alive. Damiano's hand trembled at his side. Alessia had never seen him tremble before. You could have come to me. I would have moved heaven to save her. You were a boy. Then you were an ice statue. I didn't think there was anyone left inside to ask. Damiano turned away, staring at the portrait of his father on the wall. I will find your daughter. I will bring her home. But you will face judgment. Marco nodded, tears sliding down his weathered cheeks. I accept. Alessia stepped forward. Use him. Feed Valentino false information. Turn the knife back on him. Damiano looked at her, and for the first time, she saw not just love but profound respect. You really have become a queen. That night, they devised a trap. A peace summit, proposed by Damiano, to discuss the transfer of contested territory. Marco would tell Valentino that Damiano planned to assassinate him, luring Valentino into bringing his heaviest security and playing into a counter-ambush. But the real trap was for Marco. If he warned Valentino of the double cross, they'd know he couldn't be turned. If he didn't, he'd earn a sliver of redemption. The summit was set for the new moon. A week before the summit, Alessia woke nauseous. She spent the morning vomiting into the marble toilet of her childhood bathroom while Damiano paced outside, his calm cracking with every retch. "I'm calling a doctor," he said for the 5th time. "It's probably stress," she called through the door. But when the doctor finished his examination, his expression was gentle. "Congratulations, Signora Cattaneo. You're pregnant." The word hit the room like a thunderclap. Alessia's hand flew to her stomach. Damiano stood frozen, his face unreadable. For one horrible moment, she thought he was angry. Then his knees buckled. He knelt in front of her, pressing his forehead to her belly, his shoulders shaking. "I didn't think," his voice broke. "I didn't think I could have this." Alessia threaded her fingers through his hair. "Neither did I." He looked up, and the Ice King was gone. In his place was a man terrified and elated in equal measure. "I will burn the world to keep you both safe." "I know," she said. "But let's try peace first." The peace summit was held in a neutral villa on Lake Como. Alessia stood at Damiano's side, wearing a fitted black dress that concealed the subtle swell of her belly, a ceramic knife strapped to her thigh beneath the silk. She'd trained for this moment. She was ready. Valentino arrived with 20 armed men. His smile was a gash of white in his leathery face. "Damiano. Alessia. How domestic you look. It almost convinces me you've actually fallen for your contract bride." "The contract is irrelevant," Damiano said coldly. "We're here to discuss territory. We're here because you want something I have. And I want something you have." Valentino's gaze slid to Alessia. "A wife for a wife, perhaps? You return my stolen property, and I stop hunting yours." Damiano's hand twitched toward his gun. "Your stolen property is a 15-year-old girl you kidnapped to control Marco. She's not a bargaining chip. Everything is a bargaining chip." Alessia stepped forward. "What do you really want, Valentino? You've been waging this war for decades. What's the endgame?" Valentino's eyes glittered. "Your blood, little queen. The De Luca line carries a genetic marker that can unlock a bioweapon your grandfather helped design. Your father refused to cooperate. So I found someone else. But you're the pure source. Your child will be worth more than any empire." The revelation dropped like a bomb. Alessia felt the ground tilt. Her value wasn't political. It was biological. A weapon. Her blood, her child's blood, was the key to mass destruction. Damiano stepped in front of her, a human shield. "You will never touch her." "I don't need to touch her," Valentino said calmly. "I just need her in my custody. And you're about to give her to me." He raised a hand. On the far side of the room, a screen flickered to life. Alessia's heart stopped. The video showed Marco's daughter, a girl with terrified eyes and a gun pressed to her temple. The feed was live. "You have 60 seconds to surrender Alessia to me," Valentino said. "Or the girl dies." Marco's daughter. Your consigliere's child. Can you live with that blood? Damiano looked at the screen, then at Alessia. His expression was agony. A choice between his wife and unborn child, and an innocent girl he'd sworn to save. She saw the calculation in his eyes, the soldier strategizing, the husband shattering. "I'll go," Alessia said. "No," his voice was iron. "Damiano." "No," he turned to Valentino. "Kill the girl, and I will dedicate the rest of my life to destroying every single person you've ever loved. I will salt the earth of your legacy and erase your name from history. You know I can do it. You know I will." Valentino's smile faltered. "You're bluffing." "I have never bluffed in my life." Damiano's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "Release the girl. Now. Or this summit ends in your blood and mine." A long, terrible pause. Then Valentino laughed. "Fine. Keep your broodmare. But know this, I will have her. I will have the child. And when I do, you will watch them both die." He snapped his fingers. The screen went black. His men parted as he walked out, leaving the scent of sulfur and threat behind. Alessia grabbed Damiano's arm. "We can't let him walk away. We won't." He pulled her close, his lips against her ear. "Marco's daughter is already safe. My men extracted her an hour ago." The video was a loop. Relief crashed through her, followed by fury. "You didn't tell me. I needed your reaction to be real. And it worked." Valentino just revealed his hand. "We know what he wants. We know why. Now we take the fight to him." "When?" "Tonight." The assault on Valentino's compound was a symphony of violence. Alessia demanded to go. Damiano refused. She argued. He locked her in the safe room. She picked the lock, he trained her for that, too, and followed the extraction team. By the time Damiano realized she was there, she'd already disabled 2 guards with a taser and a well-placed knee. "I told you to stay." He was furious and terrified and, beneath it all, desperately proud. "You also told me to be a queen, not a lamb. Queens fight. Queens don't risk their unborn children. Queens protect their kingdoms. This is my kingdom now. So is our child. And Valentino ends tonight." He kissed her hard, a brief fierce affirmation, then pressed a gun into her palm. "Stay behind me. Shoot anything that isn't me." They moved through the compound like ghosts. Damiano's team was precise, silent, lethal. Alessia's heart hammered, but her hands were steady. The months of training clicked into place. Cover. Advance. Trust the man beside you. They found Valentino in his study, surrounded by burning documents and the stink of accelerant. He was destroying evidence, preparing to flee. When he saw Alessia, his expression twisted into a rictus of fury. "The little queen comes to me. How convenient." Damiano leveled his gun. "It's over. It's never over." Valentino moved faster than a man his age should, grabbing a hidden pistol from beneath the desk. But Alessia was faster. The ceramic knife left her hand, the knife Damiano had given her, the blade she'd practiced with until her fingers blistered, and buried itself in Valentino's throat. He gurgled, staggered, dropped the gun. His eyes found hers, wide with disbelief. Then he crumpled. Silence. Alessia stared at the body. The monster who'd haunted her family, murdered her father, threatened her child, was dead. By her hand. Her legs buckled, and Damiano caught her. "Breathe," he commanded. "Breathe, my love. I killed him. You survived. That's all that matters. She looked up at him, her vision blurred with tears. Is it really over? The war is over. He smoothed her hair back. Now we rebuild. The aftermath was chaos and clarity. With Valentino dead and Marco's daughter rescued, the Cattaneo Empire underwent a radical transformation. Damiano liquidated illegal operations, converted front companies into legitimate enterprises, and poured billions into humanitarian foundations. The underworld howled, but no one dared challenge the Ice King who'd finally thawed, and the Queen who'd proven deadlier than any of them. Alessia's pregnancy progressed in the strange peace of their Tuscan fortress. Damiano doted on her with an intensity that amused and touched her. He read baby books. He argued with interior designers about nursery colors. He played the piano for the first time in 2 decades, filling the villa with music she'd never known he could make. One evening, as she sat by the window watching the sunset bleed across the hills, he came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her swollen belly. "I have a gift for you," he murmured. "If it's another rose, I'm leaving you." His laugh rumbled against her back. "No more roses. I'm retiring the roses." He placed a leather folio in her lap. "Open it." She did. Inside was a new contract, freshly written. Not a marriage pact, not a blood oath, but a simple document that transferred 50% ownership of the entire Cattaneo Empire into her name. Equal partners. Equal power. "You once said you'd burn my empire to the ground," he said. "I'm giving you the matches. Keep it standing or set it ablaze. Either way, I'm yours." Alessia turned in his arms, her eyes stinging. "You're supposed to be the monster, you know. This is very unmonstrous behavior. You ruined me. Accept it." She kissed him, slow and deep, her hand cradling his jaw. "Partners. For real this time." "Partners," he agreed. "Though I expect equal billing in the bedtime stories." Negotiable. Their daughter was born on a stormy night in early autumn. Damiano, who'd faced assassins and death squads without flinching, nearly passed out during the delivery. Alessia, exhausted and triumphant, held their screaming, beautiful baby girl to her chest and felt a love so fierce it remade her from the inside out. "Her name," Damiano said, his voice shredded, "is Lucia." Alessia smiled through her tears. "After you. After the boy who survived long enough to meet you." He touched the baby's tiny fist with one reverent finger. "She'll never sign a contract she doesn't choose. She'll never be a bargaining chip. She'll know nothing but safety and love. I swear it on my life." "We swear it," Alessia corrected. He looked at her, that frozen sea in his eyes now warm and deep and entirely human. "We." 3 years passed. The Cattaneo Foundation became a global force for peace, mediating conflicts and dismantling trafficking networks that had once been the empire's dark underbelly. The fortress was no longer a prison but a home, filled with laughter and piano music and the patter of small feet. At a gala celebrating the Foundation's work, Alessia stood on a stage in a white gown, Damiano at her side, their daughter Lucia perched on his hip. She addressed a room of dignitaries and former rivals, speaking of second chances and the long, hard road from violence to redemption. Afterward, a young journalist approached. "Signor Cattaneo, they used to call you the Ice King. What melted you?" Damiano glanced at Alessia, and the smile that crossed his face was the same one she'd fallen in love with, slow, rare, devastating. "She did. She walked into my war with nothing but a ruined rug and a promise to destroy me. Instead, she saved me." The journalist turned to Alessia. "And you? What kept you fighting?" Alessia looked at her husband, her daughter, the life they'd built from ashes and blood. He told me I belonged to him. I refused to believe it. But the truth is, belonging doesn't make you property. It makes you home. And I've never been more free. Lucia tugged Damiano's sleeve. Papa, does this mean we're done with the boring part? The crowd laughed. Damiano scooped her higher. Yes, Piccolo. We're done with the boring part. That night, after the guests had gone and the villa was quiet, Damiano and Alessia stood on the balcony overlooking the hills. The same hills she'd once seen as prison walls. Now they were just home. You know, she said, leaning into him, the contract we started with was a lie. But this life, this is the truth. He pressed a kiss to her hair. I would sign it again. 1,000 times. In blood, in ink, in whatever currency you asked. I'd burn it again. And I'd catch the ashes. Together. She turned in his arms, her face tilted up to his. Together. They kissed under a sky full of stars, two people who'd started as enemies, become allies, and ended as something far more powerful. Not a cold vow. Not a crimson empire. Just a man and a woman who'd found light in the darkest corners of the world and chosen to build a new one, side by side. Lucia's 4th birthday fell on a perfect Tuscan spring day. The villa gardens were transformed into a fairy realm, flowers spilling from every arch, a miniature carousel spinning under the cypress trees, and a string quartet playing Disney songs that Lucia hummed off-key with infectious joy. Damiano stood at the edge of the chaos, a glass of sparkling water in his hand, watching his daughter chase butterflies with the same tenacity her mother had once used to chase him. Alessia slipped beside him, her arm looping through his. You're brooding, she said. I'm observing. There's a difference. You're brooding with an observational excuse. He sighed. I was thinking about the boy who used to live here. The one who practiced piano for hours alone in that ballroom, convinced he'd never know anything but cold corridors and colder duty. She rested her head on his shoulder. And what would you tell him now? Damiano watched Lucia burst into giggles as a butterfly landed on her nose. I'd tell him to hold on. That someone is coming who will crack every wall he's ever built. That the cold won't last. That one day, this fortress will be filled with laughter and butterflies and a woman who terrifies him in the best possible way. Terrifies you? Every day. You terrify me every day. Her smile was luminous. Good. Marco approached, his arm around his daughter, now a vibrant young woman studying medicine in Rome, her trauma transformed into a fierce compassion. The old consigliere had been pardoned but stripped of authority, allowed to remain on the estate as a gardener. He'd said he found more peace in pruning roses than in plotting wars. The roses were thriving. Signora Alessia, the cake is ready. The chef wants to know if Lucia should blow out the candles before or after the magic show. Before, Alessia said. Otherwise she'll be too sugared up to sit still. Marco nodded, then hesitated. I never thanked you properly. For saving my daughter. For sparing my life. For everything. You're here, aren't you? That's thanks enough. Go tell the chef before my daughter stages a coup. He smiled, genuinely, and disappeared into the crowd. Lucia ran up, her cheeks flushed, clutching a slightly battered butterfly in her cupped hands. Mama. Papa. Look. His name is Prince Sparklewings and he needs a castle. Can we build him a castle? Damiano crouched down to her level, his knees pressing into the grass. What kind of castle? A pink one. With towers. And a moat made of chocolate. Chocolate moats are structurally unsound. Papa. She put her tiny hands on his cheeks. It's a fairy castle. Physics aren't things. He looked up at Alessia with an expression of complete and utter surrender. She has your logic. Don't blame my logic for your defeat. Build the castle. Build the castle, Lucia echoed, delighted. Damiano scooped her up, butterfly and all, and carried her toward the craft table. Alessia watched them go, her heart so full it ached. This was the man the world had called a monster. This was the empire built on blood. And yet here, in this garden, was nothing but light. Later that night, after the guests had gone and Lucia was asleep clutching a stuffed bear that looked suspiciously like the one Damiano had hidden in his closet, Alessia and Damiano walked through the quiet halls of the fortress. Their fortress. They ended up in the ballroom, where the grand piano stood uncovered. "Play for me," she said. "I'm out of practice." "You played for Lucia last week. She told me it was mediocre but full of effort." He laughed, a sound she'd never tire of. "She's 4. Her critical framework is underdeveloped. Play anyway." He sat on the bench, flexed his fingers, and began. Not a classical piece, but something softer. Melancholy and hopeful all at once, a melody she didn't recognize but felt deep in her bones. She sat beside him, her shoulder pressed to his. "What's that song?" "Something I've been writing. For you." Her breath caught. "You're composing again?" "It seems being happy unlocks things." "Annoying, really. I used to be so productively brooding." She nudged him. "Play it again." He did. The notes filled the ballroom, spilling into corridors that had once known only footsteps and silence. When the last chord faded, he turned to her, his gray eyes soft as morning mist. "Cold vows, crimson empire," he said, quoting something she'd once muttered in a moment of poetic defeat. "That's what you called us. But I think we're something else now." "What?" "Warm promises. Golden legacy." She kissed him, slow and sweet, her hand over his heart. "I like that better." "Me too." 6 months later, Alessia stood in the threshold of a new project, a school they'd built in the village at the foot of the fortress hill. The Cattaneo Academy for Music and Arts, funded by the foundation, free for local children who otherwise couldn't afford instruments or lessons. Lucia was enrolled, already terrorizing her piano teacher with requests for songs about dragons. At the opening ceremony, Damiano gave a speech that was short and unexpectedly emotional. He spoke about the power of music to save a child's soul. He didn't mention that he'd been that child. He didn't have to. Everyone in the room who knew his story heard it anyway. Afterward, Alessia found him alone in the school's music room, running his fingers over the keys of a donated upright piano. He wasn't playing. Just touching the ivory like it was sacred. "You okay?" she asked. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. For some new enemy to rise from the ashes. For the contract to come due in some way I can't predict. And?" He looked at her. "And it doesn't. Every morning, I wake up next to you. Every night, I read our daughter a story. The world outside is messy and dangerous and full of men who would still kill for what we have. But inside these walls, it's just us. And I don't know how to trust it." She crossed the room and took his hands. "You trust it the same way you trust anything. One day at a time. And if an enemy comes, we fight. If the contract bites, we rewrite it. We're not trapped, Damiano. We're free. That's what you gave me. That's what I'll spend the rest of my life giving you back." He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. "You already have. 1,000 times over." A year later, Alessia stood on the balcony again, this time with a second swell beneath her dress. Another baby. A boy this time. Damiano had cried when they'd found out, actual tears, which he'd blamed on allergies with absolutely zero credibility. Lucia was ecstatic about becoming a big sister. She'd already drawn blueprints for the baby's room, including, Alessia noticed, a moat made of chocolate. She's persistent, Damiano had observed. She's your daughter. No, the terrifying stubbornness is entirely yours. The charm is mine. You keep telling yourself that. Now, in the quiet of the evening, with the scent of lavender drifting up from the gardens, Damiano wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands resting on her belly just as they had years ago. Full circle, he said. We're not at the end of the circle yet. We're at the beginning. Again. A new life. A new chapter. She leaned back into his warmth. What do you think the first line will be? He considered. Maybe, she refused to be owned, so she owned the world instead. Alessia laughed. A little grandiose. I'm a former Mafia billionaire. Grandiose is embedded in my DNA. Fine. How about, the contract was a cage, but they turned it into wings. He pressed a kiss to her temple. I love that. Good. Then that's the title. Of what? She turned in his arms, her smile soft and fierce. Our story. The one I'm going to write someday. So our children know where they came from. So they understand that blood isn't destiny. That vows can be broken and remade. That even the coldest empire can burn with warmth if you find the right person to hold the match. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. You're the match. And you're the fire. Together, then. Together. They stood on the balcony, watching the stars blink into existence, two people who'd transformed a forced marriage into an unbreakable union. A cold vow into a crimson empire built on love. And somewhere in the villa below, a little girl dreamed of chocolate moats and a baby boy waited to be born into a world where the only contract that mattered was the promise of a forever freely chosen. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. I read them all.